Today I'm here to talk about budgets and meal planning and just some of the things that we do here to make living on a one paycheck family work. Not only work, but also still give us opportunities for fun and giving. So just some of the things that we're doing at our house. I just want to quickly acknowledge the fact that my family is very blessed, and to not acknowledge the fact, I think, would be ignorant. And so we are blessed in the ways that my husband has a great job, and we have no restrictions, sort of in the sense of mentally, physically, emotionally, like allergies. We have no restrictions. We're very boring in that aspect of us, and so grateful to be boring. I think that in that aspect we are very blessed and lucky. We do make other changes to help us save and to make changes to the way that we live and the choices that we make to help us live this life on one paycheck. But I just want to openly acknowledge that we are definitely blessed and that we don't have to spend money where other families have to. When you move from 2 paychecks to one, it can sort of be a shock to your system. Not just because your bank account looks vastly different than it had when you were bringing 2 paychecks in, but also, at least for us, it was a shock as to where we had been spending money before we only had 1 paycheck. And by that, I mean we weren't being very conscious about where our money was going. So we weren't making sort of difficult decisions about whether or not we would eat out, whether or not we would, buy some frivolous item when we were shopping. And so once we decided to make the move to only 1 paycheck, and then now in the past 2 years of being on 1 paycheck, it is painfully obvious how much money we could have been saving when we had 2 paychecks coming in. Hindsight's 2020. But now that I think a humongous benefit of being a 1 paycheck family, and has really brought this clarity to the both of us about when our money comes in, where it's going out to, and really being conscious about the places that we're spending it and whether or not they're efficient and they make the most sense because we only have this chunk of money for the month. We really didn't want being a 1 paycheck family to be something, sort of turn into something that meant we were just making it every month and we were just sort of getting by. We really wanted it to be a very serious look at how much money is coming in, how much money is going out, and where can we make changes so that some of that money can be set aside, even though we're working on a much smaller amount of money than we had in the past. And again, we really should have been doing this prior to having only 1 paycheck, but who's going to go tell that girl a couple years ago? So there are 3 things, sort of 3 main things that we do to be able to put money aside for the future, for holidays, for vacations, sort of in-house family things, but also be able to put money away for the future in case, knock on wood, something would happen where we would need sort of emergency amount of money. And so the 3 things that we do there, first, we've set up e-banking. And so I just read something about it. It's proven. I didn't make this up. This is a real thing. People who check their bank account regularly, and e-banking helps with that, like at least once a week, they are less likely to spend money in places that are wasteful. So like on Amazon, or some sort of like yummy treat at the grocery store that your family doesn't really need but looks awfully good right now because you're hungry. So if you're regularly checking your bank balance and you're seeing it sort of diminishing on the regular, you're less likely to waste money in places that you don't need to. And so we do e-banking. I actually have an app on my phone that I check it at least once a week when I actually go on and sort of update our records and do e-banking sort of in my stay-at-home mom schedule. But I also look at it when I'm out and about, and I can check it really quick on my phone just as a quick reminder, like, this is our money and we need to use it in a meaningful way. So e-banking is tip 1. Tip number 2 would be to, we have set up separate accounts within our, our one bank account. So we have our checking and savings accounts, and those are sort of standard. My husband's paycheck, he gets paid once a month, and it goes into our checking account. And then we have a savings account that we put money towards. And then we also set up 4 different, they're called gift accounts. The bank calls them gift accounts. And they have no minimum balance. They have no penalties if, like, no matter how much money you move in and out, even if you take the whole thing out. We don't have any penalties. We have First National Bank if anybody's interested. But we have these 4 separate gift accounts. We have our checking and savings account, and then we have these 4 separate gift accounts, and they are for one we call an actual gift account. One is for vacation, one is for home improvement projects, and one is for an emergency fund. So last year at tax time, we took a whole chunk of money and moved it right into the emergency fund, and we do not touch that. That is for if, God forbid, something emergency happens, we have money set aside that would be able to help us with bills or help us sort of if we were like in dire need. No, nothing touches that. Nothing goes in, nothing comes out. That just sits there. We also have our other accounts. Vacation is obviously for saving money for vacation. That is soon to be zeroed out. We have the home improvement. So if we're doing projects in the house, like we just updated the bathrooms, when we use our credit cards at Home Depot, we then will transfer money from the home improvement to the checking when we pay for our credit card bills to cover the cost of the project that we did. So that money is not coming out of like our monthly regular bills. That's coming out of money we've already set aside for home improvement projects. And the gift account is for holidays, birthdays, any sort of donations or charitable giving that we do. So that is step number 2, is that we set up separate accounts for specific reasons. We know why the money's in there, and when the money comes out, we know why it came out. It came out for a specific reason that we've decided is meaningful. Along with that, tied to that is step number 3, which is transferring money into those accounts, is my third idea for helping you save money. So when my husband gets paid once a month, as soon as it comes in, using e-banking, this is like a wrap up of my other 2 steps. Because of e-banking, I can set up automatic transfers. So as soon as he gets paid, basically, an automatic transfer happens that will move money from the paycheck straight into those other accounts. Because that money is coming straight out of his paycheck, I really don't even see it. It just happens, and then it's not included in my picture of what we have accessible to us for within the month, within the regular spending of the month. And so making sure that that's happening as soon as that money gets in there so that it just goes away. I don't even see it. It gets saved in a place that I know is going to be used for a specific reason. So I'm not going to blow it on like yummy cookies or something. And it also allows for us to do these other things like charitable giving and home improvement projects, because we have this money set aside for specific reasons. I think is really the most important thing to consider, is that you only have this set of money. And if it's going to be going out the door, which it is, because if you're looking at it, as much money as you have, generally that's as much money as people spend, unfortunately. So if you're looking at it, you really, to have a clearer picture of where your money is actually going without it sort of slipping out the side door on like Amazon books and, Starbucks coffee, you can put it aside in these special accounts so that you actually know this is earmarked for a specific thing that I want it to go out the door. So I'm not going to pretend to be a debt expert, because I'm not. And there are plenty of debt experts that you can find information or tips and tricks from. When we first started looking at our debt to bring it down to somewhere that at least felt manageable, we looked at Dave Ramsey's 7 Baby Steps, which I think are really helpful and inspiring. So I'm going to include a link in that in the blog. There's also other blogs that you can look at in terms of working on your debt. I really like the blog And Then We Saved, which she went on a spending fast, which is scary, but also really inspiring. I'll also include a link there. But there is some debt that feels almost unavoidable, almost, because it's not entirely unavoidable, tiny house movement. But things like mortgage and student loans that you just carry with you because it's something that you sort of had to do to get to the place where you are. And so we definitely have still student loans that we're paying off and our mortgage. But in terms of other debt like credit card and car, truck payments, we do two things that help us keep our debt at a zero outside of student loans and the mortgage. So to keep the rest of our debt at a balance of zero, or at least moving towards a balance of zero, is first we pay off our credit cards every month, which also helps us not to use or limit our credit card spending, because we don't treat credit cards as sort of invisible or free money. We treat them as whatever we're going to use them for this month is going to come out of our monthly budget for next month. So we need to keep it under control. So every month I go in, pay the credit card balance in full, and that will come out of our monthly budget. So that means less eating out, less sort of extra fun little boosts if we used it last month with a credit card. And that's something that is a struggle. It'd be nice to pass it to the next month and sort of just pay part of it. But that also means that we are giving free money to the credit card companies. So every month we pay our credit card balance in full, recognizing that we need to keep the spending to a minimum because it will come out of our monthly budget for next month when the bill is due. The second thing that we do is we take advantage of those 0% interest rates for a certain amount of months, and that's how we bought our dining and living room furniture. Is that the furniture store had a 0% interest rate for something incredible, like 5 years. We're still within the range right now, in the 0% range, and so we do the math backwards then, so that all of the payments will be completed by the time the interest rate would kick back in. And so yes, it would be nice to skip a month, especially when the holidays come around. It would be nice to skip it and use the extra money for the month, except we want to make sure we're going to pay a smaller amount every month up until the interest kicks back in so that it's already paid off. So we've done that for the living and dining room furniture, as well as Home Depot had one. So when we were buying things for a home project, we just do the math so that it's all paid up when the interest kicks back in. One thing stay-at-home moms seem to be really good at is being aware of corners that can be cut to be able to save a little money to help pad their monthly budgets or their monthly checking accounts. And lots of times these little changes that can make a big impact on your income and sort of budget are things that people who have two incomes or have a little bit more money coming in sort of let slide, or maybe are even unaware that they're spending extra money on these things. And that's because if you have the money to spend, it's no big deal to spend it in these little places. But once you are really focused on how much money you can have going out, these small things that you can change can make a big impact in terms of money that you have, extra money that you can save and sort of have access to on a regular basis. So these things could include learning how to cut your own family's hair, coupon cutting. Both of those things I'm not very good at. It can include things like looking at your bills and negotiating with different folks, like credit card interest rates and utility bills, making changes to those and actually negotiating them. There are also things like in terms of shopping. For example, in our house, we don't shop to browse. We go shopping if we have a specific item in mind that we need to buy. Otherwise, we don't just go and hang out in places where we can spend money, because it just leads to temptation and sort of unnecessary uses of our money. We also are not big fashion people, so our kids regularly wear hand-me-down clothes. Thank you to everyone who sends me hand-me-down clothes. Because I don't care about fashion that much, and so we have our kids wear hand-me-down clothes, or they wear from the sales rack, or they wear from like $2 Walmart clothes because they're going to ruin them in 2 minutes. So we are big hand-me-down folks, big hand-me-down toys. One thing that we do spend money on is our new books, but that's something within our family that we justify, which would be the same thing like if you do care about fashion, if you could justify getting new clothes for the kids and sort of designer clothes for the kids. It's not that you have to give everything up, it's that you just have to make the choices that make sense for your family and figure out where you're willing to spend the money versus, you know, what you're willing to sort of negotiate or make small changes to. Okay, geek time. Meal planning. I love it. We have been meal planning solidly for about a year and a half, and there have been 2 benefits to it. First, it is a challenge for me to think creatively about meals that my entire family will like, and also use the things that we have already in the pantry, or sort of stretching my imagination on different sort of ways we can use ingredients that we have here. But the second, bigger, better part of meal planning is that it saves us a lot of money in our budget. And that makes me super excited and inspired and ready to work harder. How we do meal planning here at the house after a year and a half, it works best for us to meal plan by the month. And so I'll sit down on a Tuesday before the new month. And so today I did it, or yesterday I did it. And I'll look at the whole month and I'll plan out meals for the 5 weekdays. I don't meal plan for the weekends because it just seems like a stretch. And I usually end up with, like, we have leftovers one of the days, so one of the weekday meals can sort of flop over into the weekend. When I'm meal planning for the month, or for the whole month, but also within the week, I sort of think about stretching out. We're meat eaters, so we have like a chicken, a beef day, a fish, seafoodish day, a pork day, sort of stretching out what we're eating. It's not like a full week of like ground beef or something. So that's how I look. I use Pinterest for sure, but I also use cookbooks and sort of family recipes that are in my brain or within cookbooks or, you know, collected recipes that we have. Mostly, though, it comes down onto Pinterest and things that I know my family have enjoyed in the past. We have also done before, we haven't done it in a while, but we pick a specific day of the week where we have a certain thing. So for a while, we were doing soups on Wednesdays. Gray's totally over soups, so we're not doing that anymore. But that was a sort of not easy way to know every Wednesday I would be making soup and it would be something, you know, different. I also try to do within the month at least one or two brand new things that I've never tried, and usually those recipes come from Pinterest. And something that either is challenging to me, like, I don't know, including, you know, salmon in a new way, or something that is brand new and I think maybe the kids might like it. Not usually the case. The other way that I make meal planning, or I try to make meal planning work for us, is that I try to make it flexible. And so I'll set a meal for each day of the week when I meal plan in the month. But when we actually get to that week, if it feels like that food isn't going to work for today, but within the week of food that we have scheduled, I might swap them in and out based on like how everybody is feeling for the day. So that has helped us. It still made me stay within the plan and not be so rigid about it. When we get to a day and it feels like, ugh, nobody wants to eat that today, I don't automatically think, let's order out because forget it, that's gross. I instead think, well, let me look at the other days in the week and maybe something sounds a little bit better than, or feels like it might work a little bit better than what I had scheduled for that particular day. So I would suggest, if you've never meal planned before, starting at a week first and just trying to do 1 week and getting everything that you need for that 1 week at the store and trying your best to stick to it, and then move to doing it every other 2 weeks every 2 weeks at a time. And then if you can do it, go for a whole month, because it's the biggest money savers, because what we buy at the beginning of the month is what we will make it through to the end of the month. And not going to the store and spending money on things, on the daily has really been a huge savings for us in terms of our budget. So how in the world are you going to buy all of your food only once a month? May seem like a scary task if you've never done it before. And so there are obviously things that we need to replenish more than once a month. And those are things like bread and milk, usually, are the main things that we need to have Brandon bring home from work, because he works at a grocery store, more than once a month. And sometimes we need eggs, but for the most part, it's bread and milk are the only things and lettuce, like produce, that we need halfway through the month. But for the most part, anything that we're going to use for the month, we buy at the beginning, and then that's what we use. That is the limit to where we can spend money on food. We look ridiculous walking out the grocery store because we have so much stuff, like we're crazy food hoarders. But I mean, they don't see us for a month, so whatever. My husband works at Aldi, and we do 95% of our shopping at Aldi. Not because he works there, not because we get a discount at all. We don't. But because it is where we can get the best deals. Honestly, this is not a plug for them in sort of favor of my husband. This is really, Aldi is where we can get the best deals. And so that's where we do 95% of our shopping. Here is the shopping list I have, my monthly shopping list. And it's broken down by aisle, because usually we have the kids with us and I need to be able to walk and check things off at the same time, walk down the aisles. And I start compiling this through the month as I see things starting to deplete from our inventory stock here at home. And so if I see that we're almost out of coffee or almost out of creamer, any other item, I just add it to this list that sits on my planner for the whole month. And that way I remember for sure that I need to get more for the month. You'll also see in some cases, if I can get it close here, like next to cereal is the number 2, and next to ketchup is the number 2. And that means those are things that we use a lot in a month. Ketchup is like we use so much ketchup, the children's. And so it's not only getting it for the month, but sometimes we get an extra one to hold us over for the next month, or just to sort of replenish our stock because we run out of it fairly frequently. And so not only do I write things down on the list that we're running out of, but I also try to write how many of them I need. Besides writing things down as I see them going away during the month, I also have the grocery list sitting next to me while I do my monthly meal planning. So when I sat down yesterday and looked across the days of the month, and looked at the recipes for them, I also added in things that I might need for particular recipes. So things like sour cream the month, and I'll have Brandon bring that home. Hi. Other than that, by the time it gets to the end of the month, like it is right now, we are being very creative about the things that are in our pantry. And so on the same day that I'm doing monthly meal planning for the following month, I'm also doing sort of a pantry and freezer inventory of what we have in there, so that I don't buy too much of something that we already have. And it also gives me an opportunity to think about, for next month, we have like 60 boxes of ramen. How can I use that in maybe an upcoming meal? Or we have lots of potatoes that need to be used sort of quickly before they go bad, and can I use those in the beginning of the month for a meal plan? And so not only are we planning month to month and sort of saving money by only shopping one time, we're also saving money by using things we already have and not spending money on items for food that we have in house and sort of forgetting about them and letting them expire. So the you all right? Is that your tip? We also have our freezer and pantry inventory that happens at least once a month to make sure we're being really conscious about the food that we already have and really how much food we actually need to buy at the next shopping trip, monthly shopping trip.